nine participants, and I'm very excited, along with Luca, to be facilitating once again another session with the Institute for International Online Education. Today we are talking about assessments in distance learning. The subtitle of the session is Ensuring Remote Assessments Support Both Student Learning and Academic Integrity. So once again, Luca and I will be your sessions facilitators today. As you recall from the drawing, the sign on the screen, we recently, last month, facilitated another session which was on focused on strategies and tools to boost remote learners' engagement. So we are thrilled to be back today to discuss a different though related topic, and I hope you will enjoy the session. So a little bit of housekeeping before we get into the content. Let me remind everyone to mute your microphone when we are in plenary session, but also to unmute it when you are in breakout sessions. And we are going to jump on a breakout session very soon. Another invitation on the right-hand side of the screen is to be focused, to be with us. Do not multitask. I personally get distracted during webinars, and I tend to multitask. So the invitation is for everyone to be with us, to be focused on the next hour and a half on the topic. And as normally, as you know, in Zoom, you can activate the chat by clicking on the chat icon, as you can see on the lower part of the slide, as well as entering the participants list, where you can access the various emojis, emoticons as well. Let me also remind you that you can play with the full screen or exit full screen so that you have a different experience, a visual experience within Zoom. So today's session is on remote assessments. These are the three learning outcomes that we would like you to take home with you today. The first one is to be able to explain the challenges and opportunities of remote assessments. The second learning objective of the day is to identify strategies and tactics to design remote assessments that support both student learning and academic integrity. And finally, we want you to take home a practical tool, a practical knowledge and competence on a particular tool called Google Forms, which is a very simple yet quite powerful tool to design and deliver quizzes, including self-grading ones. And we're going to ensure that you get some familiarity with this tool. All right, but before we get started, we would like to do a participants networking activity. So we got 66 participants right now, and we are going to put you in breakout rooms. Let me remind everyone, the breakout rooms are smaller virtual rooms where you're going to meet with a smaller number of participants, and you can share one particular invitation that we're going to make at the moment. So in a few minutes, you will see a different interface on your screen. You will be clustered in groups randomly according to the Zoom's algorithm. What we would like you to do in the breakout rooms is the following. We would like you to introduce yourself with your peers, and we would like you, as you can read on the invitation on the bottom part of the screen, we would like to share something that you have learned as an educator, as a professor, as a teacher, about yourself during the COVID-19 crisis. So once again, we're going to place you in groups. You introduce yourself and you share with the group something that the COVID-19 crisis has taught you as an educator, a teacher, or a professor. I hope this is clear, and we're going to now place you in groups for an activity lasting about 5 minutes. So bear with us as we split you into groups. Here we go. We're going to now split into groups where you can introduce yourself and share an invitation on what it has meant for you as an educator, the COVID-19 crisis. Friends in Beijing and Luca, you may also be placed and see how it goes in terms of pulling out and rejoining. Luca, can you see the presentation? Can you confirm? You're muted.
I see only your face right now.
So my screen is not being shared, right?
No.
Okay, good. Thank you for highlighting that. When we come back from group work, is always needed to reset the sharing. Can you see now?
Yes.
Fantastic. All right, thanks everyone. As usual, the breakout rooms are always exciting to get to know colleagues at more intimate level. And I would have loved to stay in the group for longer, but we have a very tight schedule today. We want to cover a lot. And as you recall, last time we had quite a journey. So we are going to move on, but thanks for the activity. And my group, my small group raised a number of challenges and questions that are very relevant to the conversation that we are going to have right now. So let me move on to the next slide. All right, so just a couple of weeks ago, I came across this quote that for me speaks volumes about what we have gone through the past few months. Let me read it out loud for you. There are decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks where decades happen. So to me, it's really indicative of the profound transformation which occurred in the education sector. In very few weeks, we had to reinvent ourselves, not only as teachers, but also as technology experts. And to shift our classes online has been quite a challenge, but also a very exciting moment as well. So educational assessments, you know, it's very hard to run a test when you don't see your students, right? But also we can say that educational assessments is a sensitive and critical topic even during face-to-face instruction. Those high stakes exams puts a lot of stress on the system, on the teachers, on the students, on the families. But by not seeing your students, as shown in the photo on your right-hand side of the screen, it creates a number of other challenges as well as of opportunities that we need to consider. You know, in preparation for this session, Luca and I did a little research online to see what's happening around the world. And we looked up a number of websites of newspapers and magazines. And we found a pretty consistent stress across the board. These are articles taken from websites from the United States, from South Africa, from Asia. And as you can see, for instance, the first article, the one in the orange color, it says some professors are canceling final exams due to online learning challenges. The other article in green color says that paranoia about cheating is making online education terrible for everyone. And finally, on the last article, which we would like to highlight, the yellow color, says COVID-19 lockdown, online exams not feasible for marginalized students. So raising the issue of accessibility. Now, we are going to run a poll with you to see what's happening or what has been the response at your university level. So let me ask you to fill out this poll, which are going to appear on your screen. And you can only select one option. And we'll see what kind of a response across the board your universities or colleges have introduced to in response to the COVID-19 crisis. So the question, let me launch the poll. The question is, what measures has your university or college put in place to deal with assessments during COVID-19 crisis? You can see you have a lot of options right there. Choose the option that best reflects what happened at your school level. We have about 15% of the voting in. Many of you are voting very quickly. Let's reach the critical mass of at least 75% of the votes before we stop the poll, and we'll show you the results. Thanks everyone for voting. Let's wait a few more seconds so that we can reach at least 75% of the votes. Just bear with us for a few seconds and we'll show you the results. Okay, so let me show you the results of the poll. Here they are. Can you see the results on the screen, Luca?
Yes.
Nice. So as you can see, the orange color highlights the answer that has received the most preferences, which is the exams have been postponed or deferred. The second runner, appreciate that, 21% of you have run the exams, the tests, the quizzes online. And while it seems that there is a larger amount of combined percentage between no decision made and clarity about what has happened. So this short poll with you shows the variety of responses regarding assessment. There is no the famous silver bullet, the one size fits all approach. There's been a number of trial and errors, a number of approaches across the board. And we'll hear, for instance, from Luca in a few minutes, what has been the response from a university right here in Italy, where we are based. Let me then stop sharing the results and move on. Now, we've been saying educational assessments for quite some time by now, but let's ensure that everyone is on the same page when it comes to understanding what we are talking about. So this is a definition we pulled out from the web regarding educational assessments. Let me read it out loud for you. Educational assessments are the wide variety of methods or tools that educators use to evaluate, measure, and document the academic readiness, learning progress, skill acquisition, or educational needs of students. And a personal appreciation when it comes to assessment is to do a little bit of reverse course design and ensure that assessments are not something that you leave for the last minute, but it's something that you build from the beginning. In this diagram, you can see that in designing the instructional process, we first identify the learning goals or outcomes. We define where we want to take our students by the end of the unit of the term. And then second step right away is to determine the acceptable evidence of learning. So right there as a second step, we design the assessment method. This is critical, in my opinion, in Luca's opinion, to ensure that assessments get the visibility, get the theoretical and operational thinking behind that, which inform the vast instructional process. Step 3 and 4 follow step 1 and 2 when you select the content and then you plan your learning experience and instruction. So I'm sure everyone is familiar with these typology of assessments. There are many types of assessment, but we simplify here the two more common ones, the formative assessments and the summative assessments. And of course, I'm sure you're very familiar with the differences. You can read them on the screen. But let me make an example, for instance, of formative assessments, which are embedded in the instructional process. When we talk about formative assessments, we refer to quizzes, observations, creating diagrams or charts, talking in class, doing homework or classwork, and exit surveys or exit slips. The summative assessment, which here are highlighted with a red dot, red arrow, these are the most challenging when it comes to remote learning. The summative assessments are normally given at the end of a unit, of a semester or a course. They evaluate student learning and they're critical in determining the student's grade. So the summative assessments, what are they? They are the end of year exams, the midterm, the end of term exams, in the United States, the SATs. They are the so-called high stakes exams. So once again, the formative assessments, we would argue that not only are effortlessly dealt via remote learning, but we can also leverage a number of tools and apps that can really facilitate and make even more exciting these formative assessments. I'm sure you recognize from this slide a few tools that we used on our previous session. Let me just point it out for you. If you recall, we have seen tools like Kahoot, like Mentimeter, like Padlet, which are extremely powerful, exciting, and engaging tools to use with your students to do formative assessments.
And sorry,
The
Andrea.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's very important to know this because it drives also the teaching experience during the year. So it's not only related to tests, but it's everything related to the teaching experience, how I teach, which type of teaching experience I give to the students. So it's not only tests.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Once again, the idea of formative assessment is to really build them into the instructional process, use them as to monitor students' learning, to inform instructional processes. It's really a continuous process. And again, the remote shift should not prevent you from running and engaging in formative assessments. On the other hand, it should enable you to explore innovative, exciting, engaging methodologies as the ones we have seen on our previous webinar last May. Thanks, Luca, for the input. So if formative assessments online are easier to deal, certainly the summative assessment, those high stakes assessment, the tests, the quizzes are certainly poses a much more complicated challenge. So here's the invitation for you to think. Let me ask you a question then for everyone to reflect. The question is written right there on the slide. In your context, what are the main challenges in delivering remote tests and exams, the so-called summative assessments? So think about it for 30 seconds, and then I'm going to ask you to report back in a specific way. So think about your context and think about the challenges you have experienced or you're experiencing when it comes to delivering remote tests and exams. Let me give you 30 seconds for that. So now I would like you to type your answer on the chat, but do not send it yet. Wait for our signal. We are doing the so-called chat storm. We would like to ensure that all your answers are clustered in the chat for easier consultation for us, but also for when the chat is then shared after the webinar. So type your answer inside the chat box, but do not send it yet. We will give you the signal when the process will start. Let us give you 20-30 seconds more so that everyone has the chance to reflect on the challenges in delivering remote tests and exams in your context, and to write your response on your chat, but do not send it yet. Okay, so I'm gonna make a countdown now, and when I reach 0, you can hit send button on your chat interface, okay? So 3, 2, 1, go ahead and send your responses. Wonderful. Thank you so much for sticking with the format. It's going to make it easier for us to consult it and also for you to read it after the seminar. Let me just browse through your answers. I can see some of you are very